Tyne Daly, Actors Train, you just said. That song reminds you of, like what? Where did you study?
Oh, no, I said actor's dream.
Oh, actor's dream.
Dream.
Okay.
You know how actors traditionally have dreams about arriving at the theater late and not knowing what play it is, or not knowing what their lines are,
Right.
or finding themselves on stage. These terrible anxiety dreams that all actors have.
Right.
I had this actor's dream once where it started out in a very typical manner. I arrived at the theater, very casually opened the stage door, and some stage manager rushed at me and said, "Tim, you are late. Get on stage right now." I had no idea what play it was. I had no idea what part I was playing. All I knew was that it was a Broadway stage with a packed house. And I ran onto stage and I hid behind a pillar, and I didn't know what to do. I was clenched with fear.
Right.
Suddenly, I got this brainstorm, and I ran off stage. I took off my socks and shoes, and I walked down stage center and sang Somewhere Over the Rainbow to a standing ovation. The curtain came down and the dream was over. It was the happiest, the only happy actor's dream I've ever had.
That's great.
That was a good one.
You're a happy actor, aren't you? You seem like a happy actor.
I am. I like
yeah,
what I
because
do.
you know why? Where did Tyne Daly study, actually?
I studied, well, I went to college, to a traditional college in Vermont, a place called Bennington. It was,
I like the word traditional. That is very traditional, Vermont, Bennington.
well, Bennington, Bennington's
I like
not,
that.
it's not a traditional school.
No, it's girls. Then they became boys later?
Yes.
Go ahead.
But I studied there, and then I went to New York, and I studied with a guy named Fred Karaman, who was a disciple of Sanford Meisner, who was a wonderful, really inspiring teacher. And then I studied with Wynn Handman in New York.
I did too.
Did you really?
Yeah, I'm a comic, basically, and I did years ago in the 60s, early 60s, I studied with Wynn. I didn't know Wynn is still studying, is he?
Oh, yeah, he's still teaching.
Yeah.
Your wife is sitting next to you. She's
Yes,
beautiful.
this is Amy Van Nostrand.
Amy
my
Van
girl.
Nostrand. How are you?
I'm good.
You're absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I just saw you two in a great show called Colorado Catechism. Tell me about the title, you two. Tell me, Amy, go ahead.
It's, I don't know what to say about the title, because when we spoke with the playwright about it, he said it was the one thing about the play that really kind of bothered him a lot. And while he was writing it, he was under the tutelage of some real great playwrights, John Guare, Arthur Miller. They all had a shot at reading it and giving him notes and sort of helping him along with it. And he said the one conversation that he had with Arthur Miller about the play was, Arthur Miller said, you know, you got to do something about that title, the Colorado Catechism. It's just too, you know, I don't know what. And Vincent Cardinal, our playwright, said, well, what do you think I should name it? And he said, you're asking me. I named my play Death of a Salesman, you know. What do I know?
Good play.
A good play.
It is a good play. It's about, tell us what it's really about. Tim.
Well, I think that it is ultimately about the nature of true love. Not sexual love, not romantic love, but the nature of true love. And it deals with these two people who meet in a drug and alcohol rehabilitation clinic in Colorado. They're very different. They come from very different worlds.
Right.
He's a financially successful bisexual artist. She's a home economics teacher from the Midwest.
But they're both Catholic.
They're both Catholics.
And they're both alcoholics.
And they're both alcoholics.
And it's an in thing right now to be in alcoholism. Right? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, you know, what happens, what I think they discover is ultimately what they must give up in order to survive their addictions. And what it is a romantic relationship. And what they do for each other ultimately is sort of more loving than had they consummated their relationship.
Did you produce it at all?
We produced
You
it
both
together.
Yeah. Because you both love the theater. You met in the theater. You met in Rhode Island.
Yep.
How did all this, and what play? You were studying in Rhode Island, or no?
No, I'd been working at Trinity Rep.
That's a great.
It's a fabulous theater in Providence, and I'd been there for about 5 years. And we were doing a production of Mice and Men and a production of Buried Child, Sam Shepard's Buried Child, that we were taking on tour to India, Syria, and Egypt, a USIA tour. And they needed a new guy to play Vincent Buried Child and who could also play guitar and sing. for the narrator,
Right.
song guy.
I could see him doing it. Oh boy.
In the other show, in Of
Sam
Mice and Men.
Shepard,
Yeah.
So, and he was the new guy.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, at one point the stage manager came up before we started rehearsal and said, well, we got the picture of the new guy. Do you want to see it? I said, no. Yeah, it's kind of
She was the leading actress.
No, let's just,
So Tim,
let's just work.
fell in love immediately, or was it just like a co-worker? What?
I fell in love very quickly with Amy,
Uh-huh.
and was mooning around a lot for her. And my advice from all the other actors in the company, all the other guys said, listen, Daly, forget about it. They said, we have all tried, we have all failed. She has a rule. She will not go out with another actor in the company.
Do you not like actors?
No, I love actors. I love actors. I just,
That's just it.
it was just the way it was. At
I
that
see.
point, I wasn't really, I was sort of very focused on doing
your
what the
career,
job was.
on your
and
career.
Had lots of friends, but, you know, wasn't really dating anyone in the company for the most part, you know.
When did it all happen? You two got married. So you just go steady for a while, or what?
No,
Go
we
ahead.
met in
One.
81 and got
Ooh.
married in 82.
Really? So,
Yeah,
so you went together for about a year at this Trinity.
Yeah, well, Amy
We were
had
in
the
Trinity, we were in
encumbrance
New
of.
York, we were-
I mean, when I met her, she was living with a wonderful playwright at the time, actually, who was a very nice guy, and so that minor obstacle had to be worked out, and as soon as that was worked out, we got together.
Tell me about your dad, James Daly. What a wonderful human being he was, a good actor.
Thank you. Yeah, he was a really wonderful actor.
You must have some fond memories of him.
I do.
Could you share some with us right now, with Amy and I? Just
Yeah,
like
I mean, well,
one of them?
I have a lot of great memories of my dad. You know, I guess that the first thing that comes to mind is my dad was, not many people know this because, you know, his hair went white very early, and so he was always seen in the business, at least in the, you know, in the television business, as being kind of a distinguished sort of guy.
Right.
My dad was...
He did those things like Foreign Intrigue and wonderful shows.
Right. And he was also, you know, a great stage actor. He did a lot of work on Broadway.
That's the Dalys are. All the Dalys are. Even your sister. You're all the Dalys. Isn't that true, of Amy? All the Dalys are very, very theater. And you are too, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm looking back
That's
in your
our-
background. You're very theater.
That's
Is
our
that why you're
background.
so fond of her, because she's so theater?
Well, I don't. I mean,
Now, I know
you know, this is maybe a terrible thing to say, but I don't think that I would have fallen in love with her so fast if I didn't think she was a wonderful actress. You know, I mean, that's what first attracted me to her, is seeing her and going, "Wow, this lady can act." You know. Anyway, I was going to tell you about my dad. A lot of people, what a lot of people don't know about him is how funny he was. Hilarious man.
Really?
And I remember one day he would buy these gadgets, which I am prone to myself, at our house outside New York City, and he was cultivating the garden. And my sister and I were in the house, not Tyne, my sister Glenn, and all of a sudden we heard this horrendous screaming.
Right.
And my father runs into the house, and he's running through the house, taking off his clothes like this, taking off his pants, stumbling through the house. He goes through the house, out the backyard. By this time, my sister and I are following him to see what the hell is going on. He runs out through the backyard, and by this time he's totally naked, and he jumps into the pool. And it turns out that he had cultivated his way into a nest of yellow jackets that were stinging him. And it was like the most, I mean, it was terrible because he was getting stung, but we laughed so hard. My dad was just like, you know, looked like a lunatic.
Where did you grow up, Amy?
I grew up in Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island.
In
You're
Rhode
from
Island, and
Always wanted to be an actress?
a couple of years in Brazil. Yeah.
What
well,
do you
from
mean
the
a couple
time I-
years in Brazil?
Well,
What-
my dad was, he still is, he's a professor of English and American literature, English writing and, or how to write, and American literature. And for a couple of years, he was on a Fulbright grant to teach at the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And so we lived there, and that was when I think I was in 3rd grade, and it was the first time I was on stage. And I remember we adapted a Dr. Seuss story,
Right.
2 friends of mine and I, about a bear, a rabbit, and a mouse. And I played the rabbit, had the ears and the thing, and we got up there, and it was a huge school. It was an American school that had 5,000 students. It was out in the middle of nowhere. There was not one phone that went from the school to any place else. It was a very modern school, but you know,
Right,
sort of in
right.
this third world place. But we did have this show, this talent show, and my friends and I got up and did this thing. And I'll never forget standing on stage in this huge auditorium and not feeling at all inhibited by doing what we were doing and saying a line that never occurred to me as funny, but hearing the audience laugh.
Oh, you like that, huh?
Oh, and I was just, it just woke me up, you know, I just,
That's
for the
fine.
first time, it was really wonderful.
That'll
An
do it.
actor loves to hear that reaction from an audience, don't they, Tim?
Well, you know,
Gives
there's nothing like the energy that's created
Yes.
in a room where there's live people who are captive in a sense,
Yes.
watching live actors. It's dangerous and it's exciting. Anything can happen, and
That's right.
you know, there's a dialogue really between the audience and the actors. It's an unspoken dialogue
Right.
most of the time, but you know, the thing is that what theater requires, which television and movies don't, is it
Right.
requires the active participation of the audience.
Right.
They have got to be with it. They've got to sit there and, you know, and experience it at that moment. And that's the charge you get. You know, when you feel an audience giving back to you and you give to them, it's just, there's nothing like it.
Tim Daly. Coastal Disturbance, is it?
Coastal Disturbances.
Tony Award?
No, no, no.
Wasn't? Or was that your first?
No, no, no.
Tell me about the Coastal Disturbance.
Coastal Disturbances was well, we started out this tiny little theater called the Second Stage.
Good.
And it was me and Annette Bening were playing the leads in it. And we didn't know what we had. It was a Tina Howe play, who's a very talented writer. And we worked on the play, and we you know, opened it. It was, I think, a 99-seat theater, about the size of the Coast Playhouse. And we opened it up there, and it got reviews that my mother couldn't have written better reviews for this play. We just got these rave reviews, so we moved it to Circle in the Square. And we played there for a long time. It was my Broadway debut. I won a Theater World Award, which actually my dad won in 1951. And
must have been very proud.
oh yeah, I wish he had been alive
Really?
to have seen it.
You went up to, oh.
Yeah, I mean, I really felt like there were ghosts.
Oh, really?
You know, around. Rosemary Murphy was in the production, who had been
Oh,
in.
she's great.
Yeah,
Oh, she's great. You remind me of her a little.
Oh, not as crazy.
And that's-
Not nearly as crazy.
No, but she's...
Who's not nearly as crazy?
You're not nearly as crazy as Rosemary Murphy. But
Rosemary?
Your wife is a young Kim Stanley-ish, though. You know, she has that quality of a Kim Stanley-ish actress, you know, as an actress. You know, I could see you in The Goddess. Every actor, I think every
My
actor,
Goddess.
Yeah, it's your Goddess. Every actor's dream, I think, a young actress's dream to do that role. Why is that?
I don't know.
They
I don't
always,
know.
for the auditions, they do that. You know.
Well, I have never worked on that. I
You
have
haven't?
never. No.
Really?
No.
Well, you're the first
I've
one I've
worked a
met then.
lot on.
The
A lot
actors.
of Williams and a lot of different Americans, but and Shakespeare. But
What's your favorite playwrights?
know.
Some of them you have. Tennessee Williams.
Well, yeah, I love Tennessee Williams. You know, I really have gotten into Chekhov lately, but I mean, you know, I could say all the standard
Right, of
ones.
course.
You know, I mean, I like Shaw. I've never had a chance to. Oh, actually, I did do one Shaw, but I had a very small part in Arms and the Man. And you know, Shakespeare, which I haven't had a chance to do professionally, and I'm dying to. I'm ready to do my Hamlet, I think.
Well, anyway, you're the two Newmans of '90s now. I must tell you.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I'm very. I told Shelley Winters I went to see. I told her after. I said, "You're the Newmans of the '90s." She loved you both. She saw it and she loved you both. But Tim, television, you've done a lot of it. But Wings, come on, you're in Wings, and then all of a sudden, you're doing this little Coast Theater. That's how much you love it. Tell me about that.
Well,
Because you're in this hit show called Wings. Busy man.
I'm a busy man, but you know, Wings is, you know, it's a very good
Is
show.
it paying?
for
It's
what it is.
paying. The Wings is paying
It
the.
paid for the production.
It's paying for what you love.
You know, the thing is that you know, we've run across so many actors over the years that said, you know, have said, well, if I ever get my hands on $1, I'm going to stay with the theater. I'm going
Right.
to do little shows. I'm going to keep, you know, my instrument. All those phrases, my instrument, you know, sharp and all that stuff. And they never do it. They never put their money where their mouth is. And you know, one of the things that makes me proud about the fact that we did this is that we actually did it. We took a stack of papers called a script and we made it into a show.
Did. Yeah.
You know, and Wings, the thing about doing a show like that, any show that becomes a success, no matter what the quality of it is that after a certain period of time, the discovery goes out of it.
Right.
And that gets very trying because you know, play the same person week in and week out. And, you know, Wings is a high-quality show, given what it is, but it only has a very limited scope. I mean, you know, we're talking about 2 colors or 3.
Yes.
And a play like Colorado Catechism is a rainbow. You know, there's so much more there. Again, you know, having the experience of having a live audience, being in that room, you know, and being able to tell the whole story without interruptions.
Working with your husband, you're married on stage. How does it feel? I mean, as actors.
Very trusting. Very, very trusting, but very, very separate from home life.
Really?
Very separate from our relationship as
husband and wife.
As husband and wife. Much more just as 2 humans. And since we've worked together over the years, you know, in
many plays.
In plays and in a little bit of movies and in a little bit of television. So much of the language or the lexicon that you use when you're communicating with someone you know really well is already known, is already there.
Right.
So, you know, it takes no more than you know, you know, it's like you can, you cut to the chase in terms of communicating what you need, what you're doing.
The real difference now is that instead of, I mean, compared to when we first met, is that now instead of saying, Amy, what if you tried this? Now it's like, honey, do you think if you tried this? We had to stop each other. We kept going to each other, honey and baby and stuff. And rehearsal, we got like, come on, we don't know each other. These people have never met, you know.
Happiest memory about your dad and about your growing ups and. Did he encourage you in the business? Who encouraged you? Your sister, Tyne?
Oh, no.
Tyne Daly is... Tyne didn't do any encouragement? How many sisters and brothers do you have? You have 3 sisters?
I have 3 older sisters.
3 older sisters. And you're the only son?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
No, my parents never encouraged me. The one thing about my family growing up is that, you know, my mother was an actress too, and she quit after she had a lot of children. But the theater was the temple. That was the place of worship in our family.
Born in the trunk, Tyne Daly.
It was born
Judy
in the
Garland and you and Tyne, all of you. Born in that trunk, guys.
But it was that was the sacred place. So you didn't screw around with what happened in the theater. That was serious business. So the difference between most kids who were in the 4th grade play and me was that after the 4th grade play, the other kids would be there surrounded by their relatives going, oh, you were so great, oh, you were beautiful, I love you. And I was surrounded by my parents saying, you upstage yourself in the first scene and you should make the cross to the toad before you speak, then say your line, otherwise you're going to lose the laugh. I was getting notes.
I see.
Because this was the family, you know, profession that we were to uphold. Of course. So we got encouragement if we were good.
I see.
If we weren't good.
Now you guys have 2 children. Come on. How old?
A
almost
boy,
9.
almost 9, and a girl, 3.5.
Encouraging them? Come on, the Daly's going to keep them in the business, you guys.
If they really wanted it, but you know, people who say things like, why don't you put your kids in commercials, they just don't understand what that entails. I mean, that's not, you know, it's such work. It's such work. I mean, it's love and it's passion, but it's such work, and you sort of have to, you hope that the humans who want to do it will be the ones drawn to it.
I think that acting is sort of, it's sort of like a disease. I mean, I think either you have to do it or you don't.
Right.
And if you don't have to do it, you shouldn't, because you'll just clutter up the business. The thing about kids is that, you know, what most people, I think, don't realize about actors is the amount of rejection they have to deal with.
That's the work. That's what I meant to say before.
On the
but
daily
the work
basis.
of it,
And
you know,
it's not abstract rejection. It's not your book needs editing. Your painting is good, but it needs. It's not without. It's within. It's you.
Absolutely.
Your hair is too dark. too ugly, you're too handsome, you're too short, you're too tall, you're too fat, you're too thin. It's about you. Your voice is wrong. Something is wrong with you. And it takes, you know, a sort of insanity of some sort to be able to deal with that kind of rejection day in and day out, and to subject a child to that. I mean, it's my opinion that children need all the positive reinforcement they can get, because they're going to get plenty of rejection when life goes on. And if they want to, you know, subject themselves to that kind of punishment, then they can do it when they're older, and they choose to.
Movies. You both enjoyed making movies because you're theater actors. Movies. You did one, I think, Made in Heaven. Tell me about that.
Made in Heaven. Amy was in Made in Heaven.
You both were in it.
Part, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, it was directed by Alan Rudolph, who is a...
Directed, isn't Barry Levinson, wasn't he? No,
that was
wasn't
Diner.
Diner, that's the one I'm thinking of, Diner.
Oh, Diner.
Okay, let's take the other one first, and then we'll go to Diner.
Alan Rudolph is a guy who I would work with again in 2 seconds.
Wonderful director.
He is
Really?
Yeah.
Wonderful director, and so creative and so... you know, helpful to actors. I mean, he really lets you do your creative work, which is great. And I think he shot a really brilliant movie that needed to be 4 hours long to tell the story properly. I didn't do so well when it came out, but...
Diner did great.
Yeah.
What a great movie that is. Guys, love that movie. How did you get that role?
Well, actually, I sort of owe it to Tyne, to tell you the truth, in a weird way. This is before Tyne was a big deal. She was not on Cagney and Lacey yet, and a friend of hers was Valerie Curtin, who was married at the time to Barry Levinson.
Right.
And they had some kind of, you know, poetry, women's poetry thing that they would do on the weekends. It all sounded very pretentious to me.
I bet you two like that too, poetry thing.
Oh, no.
No, it's not yours?
No, Little League.
Oh, okay.
Little League. Okay. On that level.
That's the end. Good.
Little League for me, poetry for Tyne.
Okay.
Anyway, so they would have this poetry thing, and Tyne asked Valerie, she said, "What's Barry doing?" And Valerie said, "Well, he's finally getting to direct his first movie. It's about his boyhood days in Baltimore, and it's about a number of young guys." And Tyne said, "Well, you should call him up and tell him to, you know, see my kid brother. He's in New York. He's starving. He needs a job." So, you know, Barry said he would see me, and much to everyone's surprise, you know, I went and auditioned, and I met the casting director, and she said, "Well, you're too young, but I'll let you read for him." So I went in and read for him, and he liked me, and I auditioned about 5 other times, and then I finally did a screen test, and finally got the job.
Glass Menagerie, one of my favorite shows. I bet that's one of your favorites too.
Yeah, I
bet you were great in that.
I had a wonderful time in that.
Tell me about that.
Well, I played the gentleman caller, which is really that's the gravy part, because you come on, you do your thing for 40 minutes, and you run the whole show, and then you leave. I mean, and it's a beautiful, beautiful part. And I had a great time doing that show. I'd like to, before I get too long in the tooth, take a crack at Tom sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. What would you two like to do right now? Think about it. Now you're very successful. You can do things now, what you want to do. Tim, Amy, come on. What would you like to do? You just finished this wonderful show at the Coast.
Yeah.
What would you like to do right now, guys?
Gosh.
Well,
there's so many wonderful things out there for two young, bright people like you, and talented too.
One of the things that's been great about doing this show is that it's sort of a fledgling you know, venture for our production company, which is called Wandering Bark, which has nothing to do with dogs.
I hear you.
Amy actually named it. It's from a Shakespearean sonnet.
From the "Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments" sonnet.
Like a star to every wandering bark. Anyway, so we're in the process of you know, expanding this production company and making it sort of a viable entity. And you know, we've done theater, and we'll probably try to dabble in other things now.
Because you seem so happy together.
Yeah,
I mean, you're very happy together.
to be able to work well together.
And you're working well together.
Yeah.
So that is nice and spiritual and loving.
It is.
You guys get up and like the day. And do you work out, Tim?
Yes, I do.
You keep yourself in fit and on the morning and exercises and all that. Isn't that boring to you? Is it? I mean, you just gave me an expression. Come on.
No, I actually really like it. I wish I didn't have to do it as much as I do, but I inherited.
They say you don't really have to do it as much craziness, you know. That's what they're saying. I don't know.
My dad used to say that his epitaph would be, "He fought fat." And unfortunately, I've inherited his genetic disposition, so I have to fight fat also. But I do enjoy it, unlike my dad, who sort of hated it.
What's been the hardest for you two?
What's been the hardest?
Yeah, for you two.
Trying to figure out where we live.
Where you live? Is
Yeah.
because you moved here from.
Well, we have homes in 3 different places. We live in this big triangle between
Rhode Island,
Rhode
New
Island,
York?
New York, and Los Angeles.
Good New York.
Yeah, so we've really we've spent a lot of time saying, well, what if next year we go to such and such and stay there for a year?
Right.
But and then once the kids come into the equation, it's
Is it
another
hard
whole
for them?
thing.
Is it hard?
Well, they've been really wonderful.
They have.
We've also been here basically for the school years for the last 3 years, and then we leave in the summer. But
Where do you go in the summer?
last year we went back to Rhode Island
It's
and
great
New
there.
England.
You love
The
it.
year
Isn't
before
it
we were in
wonderful, New
France.
England area?
I love it. I really
Yeah,
love
it is. It is.
It's very renewing.
Hollywood is not. I bet you two are really not Hollywood. You're very low key. You don't go to clubs and night places, do you guys?
No.
Do you?
No.
You have to get up too early in the
Our
morning.
children are very unforgiving. If we stay up till 2, they're up at 6 no matter what. So they don't care where we've been at night. They want their breakfast. So yeah, no,
Like you
we're-
don't go to the tattoos and all that clubs, the end things in town.
No.
No, the clubbing days are in the
Those are-
past.
Yeah, those days are gone, huh?
Yeah. Now the thing about, the thing is that I think we both like Los Angeles a lot in certain ways. The one
Right.
problem that I mean, one of the things that's a blessing and a curse about this place is that so much of it revolves around the entertainment industry.
I know.
So, if you want to come here and work and make calls and be busy and stuff, you can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On the other hand, sometimes I just want to rip my hair out if I hear about one more person's deal or one more person's show or someone's script or someone's part. It's just, it's like when we go to Rhode Island, we're there and we talk about, the hedges
And you played in the gardens and all that.
Oh,
huh?
yeah.
You liked
Yeah.
the gardens.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
the
that great?
hedge and the
You
lawn.
can't do
and
that
what
here.
did you do to your tree? and stuff.
Everybody's got to have their own gardener here.
Right.
And they're
it's like-
intimidating, man. They come in there with their machines. It's like we all hide in the house and cringe.
Absolutely.
No, in Rhode Island we get good and dirty.
You get good and dirty.
Yeah.
That's real good.
Digging
isn't it?
around in the mud, yeah.
Looking back, Amy, you're married now. You have kids. You seem very happy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I am happy.
What makes
it's
Tim?
very-
What makes you happy with Tim? So I know you love him and all that, your children.
Yeah.
But there must be more. Is he very spiritual? Is that what it is? You think?
Well,
Or
I don't know that he would call it spiritual, but the ability to really be able to express yourself creatively,
right?
to be some
knows
kind
who
of
he is, doesn't
conduit
he?
for whatever that is that allows people who are artists in one way or another to create their art.
Right.
He has